You walk into an elevator, the doors slide shut, trapping you in a metal box with a coworker you barely know. The silence stretches. It feels heavy, thick, your chest tightens, and then they say it. Crazy weather we're having, right? For some people, this is a relief. It's a bridge, a simple social lubricant that eases the tension and signals politeness. It is easy. It is safe. But for others, that sentence feels like a physical itch inside the brain. It feels like scratching fingernails against a chalkboard. They don't just dislike it. They feel a visceral, almost painful rejection of it. They want to escape. They want to say nothing rather than say something that means nothing. Have you ever noticed this divide? On one side, you have the social butterflies, the people who can weave conversation out of thin air, who treat every stranger like a potential friend, who find comfort in the surface. On the other side, you have the people who stand in the corner of the party, checking their phone. The ones who wear headphones at the grocery store, not because they are listening to music, but because they are signaling a boundary. The ones who would rather sit in comfortable silence with a friend for 3 hours than spend 3 minutes discussing traffic, the weather, or how their weekend was. Why? What is happening in the brain of the person who rejects the standard social rituals that the rest of the world runs on? Is it arrogance? Do they think they are better than everyone else? Is it anxiety? Are they terrified of being seen? Or is it a sign of a completely different operating system, one that values depth so intensely that the surface feels like suffocation? Stick with me until the end, because if you are the person who hates small talk, the answer might explain your entire personality. It might explain why you feel lonely even when you're talking to people, and why you feel exhausted even when you haven't done any physical work. To understand this, we have to stop looking at hating small talk as a personality quirk. We have to look at it as a psychological filter. The brain is a machine that processes information. And for the people we're talking about today, small talk isn't just boring. It is classified by the brain as noise. Psychologically, we can break this behavior down into 3 distinct groups. 3 different reasons why the brain rejects the idle chat. As I go through them, ask yourself which one feels like you. The first reason is what psychologists call a protective mechanism. For this group, the hatred of small talk isn't about boredom, it's about safety. Think about what small talk actually is. It is a script. How are you? Good, you. Good. It is designed to hide the truth. It is a mask we all agree to wear. For the average person, this mask is convenient, but for someone with a specific history, perhaps a history of childhood trauma, emotional neglect, or a life where they had to grow up too fast, masks are dangerous. If you grew up in an environment where adults were unpredictable, where people smiled while they were lying, or where you had to read between the lines to survive, your brain developed a hyper-awareness for authenticity. You learned that politeness is often a cover for manipulation. You learned that surface-level interactions are where the lies live. So, when someone engages you in small talk, your brain doesn't register it as friendly. It registers it as a lack of data. You can't feel the person. You can't read their true intentions, and that makes you uncomfortable. These people don't hate talking. In fact, they are often the ones who will stay up until 4 a.m. talking about death, the universe, love, and their deepest fears with someone they just met. Why? Because in the deep end, they feel safe. When someone is vulnerable, when they are talking about real pain or real joy, the mask is off. The threat is gone. For the protective mechanism group, small talk feels like walking through a minefield blindfolded. They are constantly searching for the real person beneath the weather chat, and because small talk prevents that reveal, they reject it. They aren't trying to be rude, they are trying to find a pulse. They are trying to find something real enough to trust, but then things get a little more complex. This second group doesn't hate small talk because they want truth, they hate it because they need control. We call them the control seekers. This is often linked to high-functioning anxiety and a psychological concept known as catastrophizing. Now, you might ask, how does talking about the weather link to catastrophe? For someone with social anxiety or a highly analytical mind, a conversation is a performance. And small talk is the hardest type of performance because it is improvisation. When you talk about a specific topic, like work or a shared hobby or a problem that needs solving, there are rules. There is a structure. You know what to say. You know the goal of the conversation. But small talk has no goal. It wanders. It has awkward pauses. It has a high risk of saying the wrong thing, being boring, or getting stuck in a loop of polite nodding. For the control seeker, this lack of structure triggers a stress response. Their brain starts catastrophizing. What if I run out of things to say? What if I sound stupid? What if there's a silence and they think I'm weird? They hate small talk because they cannot prepare for it. They are trying to script the unscriptable. Psychologically, these people are often hyperempathic. They are acutely aware of the other person's comfort. They feel responsible for the vibe of the room. So a casual chat about the weekend doesn't feel casual to them. It feels like a high-stakes exam where they are being graded on their lickability. It's exhausting. The amount of processing power they use to navigate a 3-minute conversation about lunch is the same amount of energy most people use to solve a complex math problem. They don't hate people. They hate the uncertainty of the interaction. They hate the feeling of being out of control, so they avoid it. They put on headphones. They look at the floor, not because they don't want to connect, but because avoiding the interaction is the only way to quiet the catastrophe playing out in their mind. They are protecting themselves from the possibility of failure in a game that has no clear rules. And then we have the third group, the rarest and perhaps the most misunderstood. These are the defensive pessimists, or as I prefer to call them, the efficiency architects. For this group, hating small talk is not about trauma, and it's not about anxiety. It is about strategy. These are the people who view their mental energy as a finite resource, like a battery that does not recharge until they sleep. Psychologically, they possess a high level of what we call need for cognition. They enjoy thinking, analyzing, and solving, but here is the catch. Because they think deeply, they tire easily. Defensive pessimism is usually a term used to describe people who lower their expectations to prepare for the worst. But in the context of social interaction, these people apply that pessimism to the value of the conversation. They look at a potential interaction, a chat with a neighbor, a mixer at a conference, and their brain runs a cost-benefit analysis in a split second. Cost: 10 minutes of energy, focus, and social performing. Benefit: learning that the neighbor likes sunny days. The equation doesn't balance. To the efficiency architect, small talk is a leak in the hull of their ship. It drains the energy they are saving for things they deem important: their work, their passions, their close relationships, their inner world. They aren't being arrogant. They are being economical. They visualize the outcome of the conversation before it happens, a psychological mechanism of prediction, and they see a dead end. So they choose to opt out. These are the people who are often called introverts, but that word is too simple. They are actually energy guardians. They treat their attention like currency, and they refuse to spend it on cheap things. They want the meat, not the appetizer. They want to know what drives you, what scares you, what you're building, what you're destroying. Anything else feels like watching a loading screen that never finishes loading. But here is the twist. Here is the psychological turn that we have to acknowledge. While this mindset, whether it comes from protection, control, or efficiency, feels valid to the person living it, it comes with a heavy price. Because the truth is, small talk is the doormat to the mansion. You cannot get into the deep rooms of someone's soul without wiping your feet at the entrance first. By rejecting the surface, people who hate small talk often deny themselves the depth they crave. It is a lonely position to be in. You stand on the edge of the room, looking at the laughing crowds, and you feel superior because you don't play the game, but you also feel isolated because you aren't playing. It is exhausting to be this way. It is exhausting to constantly analyze every interaction for value, or safety, or structure. It is tiring to be the person who can't just relax and chat. However, we must also flip the coin. Because the people who hate small talk are often the most reliable people you will ever meet in a crisis. Think about it. When the world falls apart, when there is a death, a breakup, a financial collapse, a real emergency, the social butterflies often don't know what to say. The script runs out. Nice weather doesn't work at a funeral, but the people who hate small talk, this is their home turf. They are comfortable in the heavy stuff. They don't need to warm up. They can sit in the dark with you. They can handle the silence. They can listen to your trauma without flinching because they have been waiting for you to stop pretending all along. They are the ones who will skip the cliché of saying "I'm so sorry for your loss" and instead come over and wash your dishes without asking. They value action over words. They value presence over performance. So while the world might call them standoffish or awkward or rude, the reality is much simpler. They are specialists. They are not built for the parade. They are built for the planning room. They are not built for the party. They are built for the aftermath. So now the question returns to you. Which one are you? Are you the protector, avoiding the fluff because you've been burned by fake smiles in the past? Do you crave the truth so badly that anything less feels like a lie? Are you the controller, the anxious mind that scripts every move, terrified of the blank space that small talk creates? Do you avoid the chat to avoid the possibility of failure? Or are you the efficiency architect, the strategist who guards their energy with a fierce, quiet intensity? Do you see time as too short to waste on words that don't carry weight? Or maybe, just maybe, you are a mix of all three. A person who has looked at the modern world with its constant noise, its digital notifications, its superficial connections, and decided to quietly step back. If one of these descriptions felt uncomfortably familiar, say it. Tell me in the comments. I am group 2, I am group 3. It doesn't need fixing. Understanding always begins with naming. I'm curious to see how many of us are out there. Now zoom out for a second. We live in a culture that rewards the loud. We live in a society that tells us that being outgoing is the correct way to be human. We are told that we must network, we must mingle, we must chatter. But look at the cost. We have more communication than ever before in human history, but we have never been lonelier. We have millions of words sent back and forth every day, but how many of them mean anything? The person who hates small talk is, in a way, a rebellion against this. They are a reminder that connection is not about frequency, it is about resonance. They are the ones who remind us that silence is not empty, it is full of answers. It takes a certain level of emotional maturity to be okay with silence. It takes a certain level of independence to stand in an elevator and not feel the need to fill the air with noise just to make someone else comfortable. Maybe the people who hate small talk aren't the broken ones. Maybe they are the ones who are actually paying attention. They are waiting, they are watching, and they are saving their words for the moments that actually matter. Life isn't fair with how it distributes social energy. Some people get a battery that lasts all day. Others get a battery that drains after one interaction. So when society demands that you smile and chat, choosing to stay quiet can be an act of honesty. And honesty, psychologically, is the highest form of self-respect. The people who don't talk about the weather are often the ones who notice the storm coming long before anyone else. They don't perform, they observe. And here is the contradiction. Sometimes, the best way to connect with someone isn't to talk to them. It's to simply exist near them, without expectation. So maybe the real question isn't why you hate small talk. Maybe the question is this: why does the rest of the world fear the silence? Do you need the noise to feel like you exist? Or do you trust yourself enough to just be? Tell me what you think. Because somewhere between the awkward silence and the deep conversation is where real life actually happens. If this video made you understand yourself a little better, hit that subscribe button. We dive deep into the kind of psychology that actually explains you, not just the textbook stuff. Don't forget to like the video. It helps more people find messages like this one. I'll see you there.